Wow, here we are again, Brother Peter, with tidbits from the Word. There was a great preacher named Elmer Towns, and I'm going to read a little excerpt that he wrote. Why tithe? What is a tithe? A tithe is 1 dime on $1. It's 10%. 10% of every dollar that passes your hand, 1 dime is supposed to belong to God. And it's supposed to be returned to God. That would even be for the heathen. Not just for the saved man. The heathen owes God 10%. He's breathing God's air. He's looking at God's stars at night. He's bathing under God's sun during the day. He's enhanced by the moon at night. He has rain when he needs rain for his garden. And he has sunshine when he needs sunshine. And his grass grows. And everything, God is in charge of everything, and He gives it to us. And the least we can do, He said, that 10% of every dollar, every monetary thing that you make, 10% of it belongs to me. I don't care if you're a Christian or not. You still owe 10%, 10% of your money to God. You need to send it to a missionary or send it down to a church or do something with it. Do you think the church runs free? Do you think the light bill in the church is paid for by the state or the county? No, it isn't. They got to pay for it. Everything costs today in this world to live. Everything costs. Let's look at an evangelist. He was preaching on tithing. Wow. And he paused, walked to the communion table, and took a dollar bill from the plate. Stuffed it into his coat pocket. He began preaching again. A small boy stared at the evangelist in unbelief. And a little bit later, the evangelist says to him, "What's the matter?" And the evangelist interrupts his message to ask the boy this. "You took that money," the young voice replied. "Whose money is it?" The evangelist continued his line of questioning. "That's God's money, not yours," said that little bold voice from that little boy who had attention of every ear in the auditorium. And the evangelist pointed to the congregation and he said, "Every one of you steal from God just like I did when I didn't tithe." He went on to repeat, "Will a man rob God? Yet he has robbed me. Bring me all the tithes into the storehouse." Malachi 3, 8 through 10. Because the tithe is God's. If we don't tithe, we rob God. Yet every Sunday, when the offering plate is passed, we witness one of the most serious robberies in our city. Our newspapers don't carry the story. No one files a complaint to the police station. Yet we rob God in tithes and is the Lord's. Leviticus 27:30. We give God what is His when we tithe. That is 10 cents on a dollar. $10 on 100. If you make $500, you owe $50 back to God to run His business with. Because God commands us to tithe, we are commanded to bring the tithe into the storehouse, Malachi 3:10. Those who don't are disobedient. Even though a man tries to obey God in other parts of his life, he brings leanness to his growth if he is not faithful in all areas. Because tithing is an act of love, we measure our love to Christ by the obedience of our tithe. He that hath my commandments and keepeth them, he it is that loveth me. John 14:21. But our love goes beyond Christ. It extends to our church and our pastor. Paul asked for those in Corinth to prove their love to him. Therefore, as ye abound in everything, in faith, and utterance, and knowledge, and in deliverance, and in diligence, and in love to us, see that ye abound in this grace also, the grace of giving. I speak not by commandment, but by occasion of forwardness of others, and to prove the sincerity of your love. 2 Corinthians 8, 7 and 8. If you want to know if a person is sincere as a Christian, look at their tithing envelope. Before tithing recognizes God's ownership of our lives. The tithe was described as the first fruits, meaning a person who would give to God the first to be harvested. The book of Proverbs commands honor and the Lord without thy substance, and with the first fruit of all thine increase. 3 and 9. If we put God first in our lives, He will honor us. Matthew 6:33. We can tell others that we belong to God, but our deceitful heart can lead us astray. Jeremiah 17:9. However, we demonstrate our dedication when we tithe. We give Him the first fruits because He first in our life. He is first in our life. Because tithing is good business. When you tithe for the right reason, you have gone into business with God. And when you invest 1/10 of your income with God, He promises to open the windows of heaven, pour out a blessing, that there shall not be room for enough to receive. Malachi 3:10. God will not be any man's debtor. He will keep His promise. Recently, the newspaper reported a man suing a church to regain the tithe he had given. He claimed he gave the tithe, but hadn't received the return he expected. The suit claims that he had been compensated. The very fact of the suit proved that the man gave the tithe with the wrong motive. No wonder he was destitute, because tithing will keep us from the lust of money. Those who don't tithe not only are disobedient, they demonstrate a great love of money than of God. For the love of money is the root of all evil. While some coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and pierced themselves through with sorrow. 1 Timothy 6:10. But those who will weakly, despite their tithe, deposit their tithe in God's bank, reveal their faith in God to take care of all their needs. Because tithing helps the church carry out the Great Commission. The church is commanded to go into all the world and preach to every person, baptizing, converting, and teaching command of Christ. This involves money to print tracts, purchase radio time, build buildings, pay preachers, carry out countless other expenses associated with the ministry. A tithing church will not have to beg for money and plan gimmicks to raise its budget. A church of tithers will have willing workers. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Matthew 6:21. Because a church of tithers will have the heart of its people to carry out the Great Commission. By Elmer Towns. Man, what a piece of work. And if I've heard people say, man, that church has got more money than they know what to do with. Well, let me tell you what. Some of those people that say that doesn't realize our little old church has about a $5,000 a month utility bill just to keep the place comfortable, warm or cool. And if we weren't keeping it warm or cool, there would really be some complaints. And so we have to keep it cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And it's a very expensive thing to do in a big building. And then we have a gymnasium. The gymnasium probably burns $1,000, $1,200 a month or more to keep it warm and cool when we're using it. And then we use it every Wednesday night. So you got to turn the heat system up in the wintertime and turn the cooling system up in the summertime. No church runs without debt. Everybody has a debt, monthly debt. And the monthly debt is what keeps the doors open, keeps the building going, keeps the business going, keeps God's work going. And the tithe of 200 or 300 people is not very much money when you come right down to it. And think about the utility bill is just only one part of it. And then you have a preacher to pay. You have several people. You have a secretary to pay. You have a radio man that's full 100% one time. TV, radio, advertising, everything. The great big massive thing that he does and puts the program on television, puts the program on and all that. You look at that expense. If you see the expense of our church, the church I'm going to right now, we'll say 400 active members in it. To keep those 400 active members comfortable in this building and in the parking lot and safe in the parking lot and all of the children, 100 or so children down there doing things and different things and everything. You're looking at $25,000 a month just to keep the thing open, just to keep it rolling. It's not an easy thing. You can't compromise with it because it's actual facts. Facts don't lie. When the bill comes due, you have to pay it. And if you can't pay it, you got to figure out how to pay it. And robbing from Peter to pay Paul is not the way the church is supposed to be run. Church is supposed to be run by tithing. If every person, if they only made $10 this week, if they're in the church and they get a check from the government, like I do, I put in more than 10% of my check every month. And if everybody did that, there would be plenty of money to run the thing. But everybody doesn't do that. There are some that come in, sit, soak, and sour, soak up the heat, and put anything in. Soak up the cool, don't put anything in. As a matter of fact, they come and borrow from the church or ask the church for help. Why? Because they're not tithing. If you're not tithing, you're not under the blessing of God. So if you want to be under the blessing of God, you have to tithe. I think, do you tithe ought to be a question in the food closet. Do you tithe? Well, if you don't, that's why you're here getting food. You need to tithe. And if you're from outside of the church, and you don't go to church anywhere, and you come to our church once a month and you want a big box of food, we could say to those people, hey, I don't know how much money your check came in this month, but 10% of it belongs to God. Next time you come get a box of food, bring 10% of what you got in the mail this month and put it in the offering plate in here so that we can give other people food too. And it would work. Otherwise, the whole burden is on the church, is on the group of people that are tithing, that are working, that are doing it all, and they got to carry that load too and feed you. And it's not right. Well, I have found out that I can take a tag number from a Cadillac that pulled in and got a box of food and find out I go to their house and they live in a nicer house than the average person. And they're driving a Cadillac, and they really have no need. Yet they come and get the food. And they get a check, too, also from the government. And it's not right. And that's the way the world is today, though. It's upside down. And because it's upside down, we have this problem. And so it would not bother me one bit to say, if you're going to come get food from us, bring your tithing over here and put it in this church once a month. If you get $500 a month, bring $50 over here and put it in the church to take care of the things so that we can give all kinds of other people $50 worth of food. When you get a box of food from the church, it's a $50 box of food, generally. And we have meats and other things that we have. We have to keep refrigerated. It costs money to keep food. It costs money to get food. It costs money to keep food. And so that we can feed those who need it. And wow. One of the greatest causes of our diminishing the potential of our life's message is the failure to turn from all of the wicked ways that we have in our life. Words that are spoken that are not correct. As I said in another excerpt today that I gave, a man told us that he had been saved and he was using enough foul language to embarrass the devil. He had not been saved at all. If he hadn't been saved from his cursing, he had not been saved at all. So words tell more than you know. Oh, you can say, oh, I got saved over here, but you didn't. You heard the message, but you didn't receive it. If you received it, you would have changed your life. Salvation changes lives. From the day I got saved, the moment I got saved at 3 o'clock in the morning, November 5th, 1972, I never swore a cuss word. Ever. Nor did I ever take another drink. And within a year, I never smoked another cigarette. To this day. And God cleaned me up. And He'll do the same for you. If you're watching PH Tidbits, you're probably searching for something. And I'm telling you what you're searching for. If you're searching for something and you got problems right now, you need to make sure that your life is correct. Are you tithing? Do you read your Bible every day? Do you pray every morning when you get up? Do you pray every night when you go to bed? Do you commune with the Lord during the day? When you're driving in traffic, do you say, Lord, help me through this? Lord, guide my car. Put your angels on the front fenders. My daddy never drove out of the yard that he didn't ask the Lord to put the protecting angels on the fenders of his car. He drove from Florida to Maine and Maine to Florida 40 times in his life or more. Never had an accident. Never had a problem. Why? He prayed. God, protect us. Lord, protect us. And the Lord did. Protected him. I don't think my daddy ever had a flat tire on the highway. I don't recall him ever having a flat tire on the highway. I do recall when I was a little bitty boy, my daddy had not been saved very long. And he went into this town and he parked up on a hill and he was peddling watches. And he took the watches out and he was peddling them. He'd come back and his car's jacked up and all 4 wheels and tires are gone. And so he gets the town together and he tells them up on the hill, listen, this is who I am. This is all I have. I have no way to get any more tires or wheels. And I'm God's man. And I believe the Lord will reward you if you're the one that stole these tires with something evil. I think my wheels and tires need to be put back on my car. He said within an hour, his wheels and tires were back on his car. So, hey, God worked miracles through a man that held his faith. Oh, he didn't cuss him out or get word or nothing. He just said, the Lord's going to deal with you. They didn't like that. And so he got his wheels and tires back. And so that was the story of my daddy's life. That's the way he lived. He lived in faith. I've seen him take off from Florida to go to Maine with half enough money to go and come. And God meet his need all the way up and all the way back. You say, how? I don't know how, but I know one thing. I was a failure in that area that I didn't send my mom and daddy $100 a month or so to live on. You say, well, you didn't have it, Brother Pete. I could have made it. I could have done it, but I didn't. Now they're gone, and now I have regret. So, take care of your family. Take care of your mother and father. Meet the need if they have a need. If they're poor folk, meet the need in their life and do it right. Well, our time's come and gone. We'll see you next time. Right. Bye-bye.